And I'm recording. My man.
We are back. For those listening, thank you for coming back to Curb and Canyon. Andy and I were just staring at each other, just trying to figure out how to get this podcast started for an awkward 7 seconds.
It was like two long-lost lovers not knowing what to say to each other.
It's been a while.
It has. It's been too long. Do you know, I was thinking about it though, right? Like a Brit living in Minnesota and an Aussie down in what Jerry Seinfeld once called the anus of the world, trying to run a podcast together. What a great idea. What could possibly go wrong with those time zones?
I know it's a fun challenge, but I mean, it's taken us probably a solid month of trying to get this first one recorded after what was a 2-month hiatus. So we're back for a second season.
I know. I went back through. I thought at least the one thing we don't have to do preparation-wise is some new show notes. And I opened the show notes this morning, and when we were originally going to do this, we were going to be talking about the 911 Sport Classic, like all of these things that in the Porsche news cycle are just so far in the rear vision mirror, it's not funny. So, yeah, it's been a while. So thank you all for your patience. But my friend, it is good to see you.
Absolutely. And this might be a bit of a shit show, but I don't care. Let's get it on.
Yeah. Let's just talk shit. Because actually what's interesting is that whilst we've had a break from the pod, other than some text messages here and there and giving each other shit where we can, we've not really had a conversation since our last episode.
That's right. It's just crazy how fast time has been flying by.
So much to catch up on. I thought we could talk about your Rocky Mountains tour. I thought we could talk about my little mini rally I did with my son Ryder. Let's talk about Project 996. I want to talk about the 964. We got plenty to cover off. We're okay.
Let's do it. All right. Well, before we get started, do you want to say it? I'll say it. You want to say it?
I'll say it. Welcome to Curb and Canyon.
We're back.
We are. So I've been awake now. It's 8:14 a.m. Monday morning. I've been awake since 5. I got up to watch the British Grand Prix.
Oh,
very, very exciting race. Crashes, thrills, spills, everything you could possibly want from a Formula One race.
I just can't get into watching sport on TV. It's never really been my thing. Like, I've played all sorts of sports and I've never liked watching them on TV, but I like to play them. And kind of racing is a little bit like that as well. I mean, in person, different story. But like on a TV, you see a car go around a corner, you see another car go around a corner.
I think any sport, you've got to have, for it to be interesting, you've got to have skin in the game, right? So, well, hold up. What are we drinking? What is that? What is that? Bubble tea?
No, this is the...
You're trying to be like Drew, aren't you? You've got that cheese.
No. Wait a minute. I want to get it right. This is the peach green iced tea lemonade from Starbucks. And it is so good. I mean, it kind of looks a little bit like after beer's urine in the morning, but it tastes...
It looks like you've been taking too much vitamin C. Is what that looks like.
It's so good. But
I'll tell you, if Starbucks offered us sponsorship on this pod, which, I mean, let's be honest, it's likely. I'm not sure I could take it. I'm not sure I could look at myself in the mirror with any respect.
I'll take it for you. But I tried really hard not to have a big gulp with me this time because you always comment on the size of my big gulps from Starbucks.
Well, congratulations. Well done.
This is where it's at, though, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I can see that. So what I was going to say with sport on TV, you got to have skin in the game, right? You got to have somebody that you are following that you want to see succeed, because that's where a lot of the drama comes from. So, for me, I tune in every week to see if maybe this is the week Daniel Ricciardo turns it around at McLaren. This week was not that week. I'm not sure how long he's got. But then, watching Lewis, spoiler alert, come very close. It was great. It was great.
How was Dennis Villeneuve? Was he doing good?
Yeah, he's not as quick as he used to be.
I still can't believe I made that clanger.
Dennis Villeneuve. Love it.
You see, I don't watch sport on TV. I can't even talk about sport on TV.
No, it's good. It's good. So just yesterday, your video from the Rocky Mountains tour popped up.
Yeah.
Which I watched, and it looked like an amazing trip.
It was a lot of fun. I can't believe it's like 6 weeks ago now, I think, maybe even a little longer since we did it. I've got to say, for what was a 5-day, 2,500-mile trip, condensing it down into 6 minutes, I think was actually kind, because there was a lot of roadway driving. There really was.
I got a sense of that from your socials at the time. I didn't want to say anything, but thought, oh yeah, there's another highway.
Yeah, like
that's a lot of dead kilometers on your odometer,
mate. Definitely. So, like on the first day, we went from Minnesota west through North Dakota, past Fargo and Bismarck, and then into the sort of southeast side of Montana to get to Billings. 960 miles, a good kind of like 13 hours worth of driving. And pretty much it was all just straight motorway, boring fields, farms, just boring.
Right.
On the second day, it started to get a little bit interesting. From the 400 or 500 miles we did from Montana down through Wyoming and into the Colorado, there was at least 50 miles of interesting mountain roads.
So far, this sounds amazing.
I know, right? But then,
why didn't you just go and sit in traffic for 5 days,
dude? I know it would have saved my my poor old clutch foot, definitely. But then, you know, I'm taking this thinking into my next tour, which I'm going to be doing in autumn, going back to Tail of the Dragon. Once we got to Boulder, Colorado, and Boulder's gorgeous. Forget Denver. Boulder's really nice, right at the sort of foothills, or at the base of the Rockies. 5-10 minutes and you're up into the mountains. If we'd have somehow been able to teleport ourselves to Boulder and done 3 or 4 days worth of driving just in that area, all over the Rockies, and then gone back, that would have been absolutely fantastic. Because the sort of day and a half that we had there in the Rocky Mountains National Park, the roads were just amazing. I mean, gorgeous, wildlife, mountains, snow, everything. It was really cool. And then on the way back, instead of going to Utah like we planned, there was the last winter storm was coming through. And it was basically blocking our path across the Rockies. So I think at that point, I was getting a bit bored and annoyed. So I kind of convinced everybody to just follow me back to Minnesota. And we went back through Nebraska, which is boring as crap. And then we got into South Dakota. And then that was beautiful. You're going through the Badlands. I got a drone shot in the Badlands there at some point. And then it's back to Minnesota. So out of 5 days, there was definitely a good day and a half worth of excellent driving. Maybe half a day of mediocre driving. And then 3 days of just boring highway. So I've got to take that into my next trip. I've got to figure out a way to kind of cut that down. He says, planning a 17-hour, 1,200-mile straight shot to Tail of the Dragon.
Well, reconciling that ultimately depends on what your mindset is going in, though, right? Like if you know going in that, okay, I need to commute to get there.
Yeah.
And it's like taking a family vacation, right? You're gonna drive for a day to get to where the vacation actually starts. And I suppose if you almost go into it with that mindset, that day 1 or day 1 and 2 or day 1, 2 and 3 are the travel to get to your destination where all the fun happens. That's then maybe you can reconcile that a little more easily. I mean, to do 5 days and have a day and a half of great driving, that's an admirable commitment.
Yeah, maybe that's a little harsh, but it was definitely 50-50 at best. But I hear what you're saying, and actually, if my kids ever listen to this years in the future, I apologize, Luke, Adam, and Gracie. That first day, mentally driving to Bismarck, was actually super enjoyable because I didn't have anybody bothering me for diaper changes or glasses of milk or help me turn on the Xbox. As much as I love being a dad every day, it was nice to just be on my own in the cabin, occasionally checking with the guys on the radio, driving the 996, which was the first real road test. And I found a couple of issues actually on the journey, which we can talk about in a little bit.
We'll get into that.
It was actually really nice to be out there for a day. Just, that first day just by myself.
It's funny that, isn't it? Because I always feel when I'm planning our rallies, a certain level of responsibility and pressure to make it that we're from moment one, that we're in the twisties, we're in the hills, and there's as little commuting as possible, and it's just all great roads. But I don't actually mind having a bit of time just on the open road, put on some music, put on a podcast, or just have the sound of the engine droning along as you just cruise along. I find that a good opportunity to decompress sometimes. So I don't mind the slog. As you say, that day one, it's a bit of a reset opportunity before you then get into, whatever awaits beyond it.
Right. Well, it was fun. I'm glad I did it. Made some great friends who had not met before.
It looked like a good group and great cars too, huh?
Yeah, a couple of guys I knew, from Minnesota. My good friend Chris and Alberto, who came to Tail of the Dragon earlier in the year. Well, last year now, I can't remember. Whenever it was. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And so almost at the same time, you were doing your rally. And I don't think I saw too much from you on social media this time. What was going on? Or was I just not paying attention?
Probably a little bit of both. No, because it was just me and my son. And so we had done something similar last year where we did it over the course of a day. But this year we decided to do it over 2 days. And there was a road I'd always wanted to drive that looked really interesting to me, but I didn't really want to weave it into a group rally because I wasn't sure how I would link it up to everything else. So I thought, why don't Ryder and I hop in the car a day before my wife and daughter? We were meeting up in the Alpine regions anyway, and we can do essentially a good chunk of day one of what we would typically do on the Alpine range rally, but then add in this new road. The tricky part was I woke up that morning sick as a dog.
Oh no.
I had this brutal head cold, and which Ryder was just coming off. So he wasn't too bad. I was at the very beginning of it, so my nose was running like a tap. But we set off in the 964. It was great. First day was amazing. The road that we found was excellent, but it was somewhat out of the way. And then contrary to all of the research I had done on YouTube and everywhere else I could find, it ended up that we had to do, I guess, about an 8-mile traverse on gravel.
Oh,
I don't make a habit of driving my car on gravel. It was fine. It was well graded gravel, like there were logging truck roads and stuff like that. So it wasn't horrific. But also that day, as is always the case, it wouldn't be an Andy rally unless it was pissing rain. And it pissed rain all day. Like I literally did not turn the wipers off all day. So we arrived at our destination that night, and dude, I was cooked. I was because as I say, I was pretty crook, and the car was just filthy. I've never seen it so dirty because it had been raining. I'd been driving through mud, gravel, just everything. And actually, shout out to Bowden's own car care products. Their bead machine product is amazing. It's almost like putting a ceramic coating on your car in terms of beading and stuff. I actually went to the car wash that night and just with the pressure washer almost got the car clean. So
that's cool.
Hats off, Bowden's own. The second day, I woke up feeling twice as bad as I had the first day.
Oh no!
And I was lying in bed in this shitty motel thinking, I don't know if I can drive. I'm that crook. I literally don't know if I can drive. And we had to drive basically the exact route that we do on day 2 of the Alpine Range Rally, which is up along a river called Tambo River, which is an amazing piece of road, one of my favourites, and then up over Mount Hotham. So anyway, we get in the car with a couple of cups of coffee and some pseudoephedrine. I'm feeling somewhat up to the task. So we start driving. The difference was, though, this was the Easter holiday period, right? So usually I drive that Tambo River road, and it's not a weekend of note. There's very rarely any cars on it. Whereas this time there were all of these big 4-wheel drive brodozers coming the other way who'd obviously been camping up at Mount Hotham. So every time you came around a curb, there was some knucklehead in a Nissan Patrol or a Land Cruiser barreling down the road towards you. Added to which, the condition of the road had really deteriorated since the last time I drove it. And there were, when the asphalt under heat kind of peaks, it creates these little peaks in it.
Yeah.
So there are potholes, but there are also peaks, which when you're driving a highly modified, quite lowered 964, those things will rip the bottom of your car out. So I was having to swerve onto the wrong side of the road. It was just, it got really quite sketchy. And then anyway, we driving up Mount Hotham then was just sheets of rain, no visibility. But it sounds ridiculous, but it was still great. And the one thing I will say is all-wheel drive on my 964 with Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss, and honestly, I can drive that car in the wet almost like it's dry sometimes.
Yeah.
It really is that good.
Yeah.
So that
great
part
tires.
was fun. Yeah, they are. They're the best. But I was very, very happy to make it to our destination at about 2:00 that afternoon, and actually stayed sick basically the whole time we were away on holiday. So driving home, I did what you did and just took the highway home. I was very happy to just cruise home. So look, it was great. It was I love doing those things and having the opportunity to create a memory with my son. That's fantastic, of course.
Yeah.
But I was. It was a bit of work. It was a bit of work for sure.
His fond memories of being sat next to you for 2 days, sniffing and coughing and sweating and looking like a zombie with some kind of plague.
Here's me talking about, it's great creating those memories with him. One day he'll be in therapy saying, it all started when my dad dragged me on this bloody road trip and he was sick and wouldn't shut up about it. Well, so I actually I spent the whole time making him feel guilty for bringing this pox into our house in the first place.
Like every good dad should.
I got some value out of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, speaking of rain, that was one of the things that I hadn't anticipated going on the Rocky Mountain road trip, and was the first thing for me to discover wasn't quite working right with the car, and that was the wiper blades. I had just not thought about changing the wiper blades, and so as soon as it started raining, I've got this awful kind of squeaky,
smearing,
juddery. And one thing that really drives me nuts are wiper blades that don't actually clear the water properly.
Yeah, grinds my gears.
Oh, it was so annoying. And of course, being out in the middle of whichever state we were in, and there's no lights, no gas stations for hundreds of miles. It's not like I can just pull off and go to a local Home Depot in whatever city you're driving by to get some. That was annoying me a lot. And the other thing which I'd forgotten about the 996 is for the intermittent wipers, because the rain was sort of on, off.
Yeah.
For the intermittent wipers, there's actually a dial on the dash, and you can pretty much configure the wiper to go at any sort of fraction of a second, or seconds, because it's that precise. So I spent the whole time just sort of like listening to the annoying creaking and just like dialing it up, dialing it down, dialing it up, dialing it down. I was absolutely driving myself crazy. Not good.
Do you know what? So the 964's got that exact same thing, because most modern cars will just have, I don't know, like maybe 3 different intermittent wiper settings, right? Whereas the 964's the same, and it looks like a little clock. And every time I go to use it, there's always a moment where I think, okay, hang on, which way speeds it up and which way slows it down.
Yeah.
And then so I always remind myself, if you turn it clockwise, it's like you're adding more time. It's like a clock. And I get all excited that I've figured out this great, puzzle of the universe. and then I'll spend the whole time just driving along, making all these stupid micro adjustments to it as though it's going to change my drive experience. And so often I'll have to tell myself, Andy, just drive the bloody car, mate. Just leave it set on a setting and just get on with it, you idiot.
That's it. I'm exactly the same. It was driving me nuts at one point, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to put my hand like underneath my leg just so I can't get at it, to take it to the dashboard. But then, of course, that's my gear changing hand. So invariably, within a few minutes, I was back to playing around with it. So that that was I discovered that wasn't working on the car when we were going. What else was there? I discovered that on the morning of the second day, there was like a very slight rattle around the mufflers in first gear. And once you get out of first gear, it was fine. You didn't hear it, but it sounds like there's a piece of heat shielding that maybe isn't quite screwed down properly in place. Okay. So I've got to take the bumper off and figure that out. But whenever we're in a city and I was going from first to second, second to first, and I could just hear that slight rattle, it kind of gave me that, beaten up Toyota Camry kind of feeling, which really upset me. And the other thing, one of the body panels on the underside, the skid plates, apparently was coming loose. And so I couldn't see it and I couldn't hear it. But the guys behind me were commenting that I had this little sort of flap. Yeah. And we got to this one part of, I think it was Nebraska on the way back, and there were some absolutely amazing roads up in the mountains. No police around, no anyone. I mean, absolute true middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden, I started hearing this scraping sound, and I pulled over straight away, thinking, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And it just so happened that this piece of body panel that I think was basically covering the transmission had sort of folded in on itself, and so. Ooh. Of course, I get out of the car. I've got no patience for this whatsoever. One of my friends pulls up behind me and it's like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? I hear another guy on the radio being, hey, I've got my tools. If let's see if we can put it back on. Yeah. I just pulled it, yanked it, ripped it off, threw it on the side of the road. It's like, get back in the car, guys. We're going.
You're like Tom Cruise in Rain Man, just storming off from your car by the side of the road, just yelling expletives.
Somewhere in the middle of Nebraska, on the side of some kind of prairie, is this 4 foot wide body panel from a Porsche that's sort of half broken and just torn off and thrown on the side. I didn't even put it back in the car because it wouldn't fit. And I was just like, forget it. I can't be arsed. Let's go.
Well, I'm just looking on eBay. Here it is. Nebraska 996 underside body part. $97. That's going all right. 6 bids.
That's a bargain because I think actually I found the brand new part and it's like $400. So I'm kind of a little bit pissed about that, but
yeah. Okay, so wiper didn't work that well. You had some kind of rattle and something fell off. Yeah. What was it like to drive?
It was amazing.
Get me to the twisties. Get me to the good bits. How was that?
It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So I miss my 991 a lot. Oh, yeah. But this car was so much more enjoyable in those mountain roads on the twisty turnies than the 991 ever was. Even though I missed the sound of the Soul Performance exhaust, and the Fister mufflers sounded great, but I didn't get the pops and the crackles that I was getting from a 991, that whole kind of racing car sort of experience. But the feel of the car on the turns, coming out of the turns, the manual shifting, the sort of mechanical analog hydraulic feel of the brakes, which a little slower, a little splashier than the 991s. It was absolutely incredible, to the point where on the way back, I was thinking to myself, I think maybe I'll just keep this car. I'm not going to sell it. Yeah. I like it too much. And I'm still of that mindset, actually. Having said that, though, I think, well, we can talk about this later, but like, what's my next car going to be if it's not the 996? I think it might actually be the 997 for all of the reasons.
I was about to say, it's got to be a 997. It has to be a 997.
Yeah, right? And for all of the reasons I love the 996, and for all of the reasons I love the 991, you got, you know, so I'm now currently looking online to see if I'm going to go for a project car or a driver. There are quite a few 997s available right now around the sort of 50 or 60,000 US mark. But every time I go into the garage and I see that blue 996 with the ducktail,
gorgeous, huh? Dude,
I get a tingle in my pants. I'm not going to lie. I love it.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny with ducktails? And this might be an unpopular view. I'm not a big fan of ducktails on air-cooled cars. I don't love them on a 964. I don't mind them on a 73 RS, obviously. But I love the interpretation of a ducktail on a modern liquid-cooled. There you go, Jerry Seinfeld. I didn't say water-cooled. Liquid-cooled 911. For some reason, I actually like them on the more modern stuff, and it does. It looks magnificent on your 996.
I've really enjoyed looking at it, and I've gotten quite a few comments and compliments about that, and also the wheels. I really wasn't sure about the rims when I first got them.
The wheels are good.
I've had a lot of people commenting that they like those. I thought maybe they were a little bit too far off brand. Maybe they were a little bit too big. But I've also been told by a lot of people that you were right when you said that I've got a bit of a safari stance and it needs to come down a little bit. I don't know.
So 997, we're talking Series 1 or Series 2?
I think for me it would have to be the Series 1. I had one before. I loved it. I prefer the look of the Series 1 over the Series 2. I'd get a manual anyway, so I wouldn't be missing out on a PDK versus Tiptronic. And I think
interior on the Series 2, though, interior is a big step up. It feels close. It feels closer to a 991 interior.
Yeah, it does. It does. But the interior of the 997, though, the first series or the first generation, is so much of a step up from the 996.
996,
it's enough of a step up, even though the dot 2 might be, preferable for folks. But I think that the interior of the 997.1 would just be perfect for me. Having owned one, I actually sent a cheeky email to the new owner of my former 997 today, just checking in, saying, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Do you still have the car?" He still has the car. He still loves it. He won't sell it back to me, or at least he didn't bite when I just said, "Hey,
when you dropped various hints, he didn't take any of them."
I sent him a selfie video saying, "Sell me the car back." No, I think the 997, and I think so. Hold on, just hang on there with me for a second. Yeah. I would probably, unsurprisingly, get a 997 and mod the crap out of it. Like, I would paint it, repaint it, just like I've done with the 996, a color that I really want, I really like.
Yeah,
I'd go and do all of the things that I've done on my other cars, like update the wheels, the seat belts, just, do all of the sort of auto amateur tweaks that I like and make it my own.
I'm 100% on board with that plan. I would also say, because the thing that you've experienced with the 996 on this trip points to, for me, and it's why people have asked me about selling my 991 and why I sold it and compared with the 964, because they're two different cars, so surely that's 1 foot in each camp, etc. But for me, it wasn't just the size of the 991, which is something I've pointed out a few times. I think if I'd taken the 991 and made modifications to it, to make it my own from a visual perspective, but B, to make it my own from an actual driving perspective, then I think I would have been able to really extract the benefits out of the car. Because honestly, when I get into the 964, what really surprises me, and I kind of forget this a little bit sometimes, is that car has now been so dialed and so tweaked, while it still resembles the car that rolled off the factory floor, the drivability of it is far less compromising than it used to be because it's not a daily driver, so it doesn't have to do that duty for some dentist driving into his practice every day. I've set it up with camber, with coilovers and all that stuff, so that the car drives like a go-kart.
Right.
And I think the 997 is such a sweet spot there with respect to the modern elements that it brings in terms of ride quality and some of those, and safety tech and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it still feels small. It still feels analog. It's not so new that you're going to feel bad about modding it, changing it, painting it, doing whatever.
Right.
I would look at suspension. I would genuinely look at putting some KW coilovers on it. I think they would absolutely just elevate that car into something spectacular that is going to do your trip to Taylor Dragon in comfort.
Yeah.
But then when you get into those twisties, the same experience you have with the 996, where it's so engaging and exciting to drive. I think it's a great idea.
So I guess the trick now is convincing my lovely wife that I'm not going to sell the 996, but I am going to buy myself a 997. How is that going to work, Andy? I don't know, but I'm going to try.
You can talk about investments. In this market, with things being the way they are, cars are probably the safest place to put your money right now. Real estate ain't so hot. So put your money in cars. You can always sell them, and
that's right.
You're not going to lose money.
I guess
you'll
not.
make money.
No, I guess not. But I'm just amazed by how much I sort of fell in love with the 996 again on that trip. Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, I think I told you this before I left, I was actually kind of dreading the trip in the 996 once I picked it up for the first time after the Porsche Minneapolis had done the engine for me and the tranny, because it was a lot smaller in the cabin than I was used to with the 991. But the additional 4 inches of legroom I got with the aftermarket rails, the deletion of the center console, it was so spacious, so comfortable.
Yes.
Plus all of the wonderful things about an analog kind of raw 911 driving experience. Just absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, the other thing that broke was the sunroof. And I like driving with the little sunroof open, not the full sunroof, but like the little vent.
Okay.
And especially in the 996, it gives you just like an extra half inch of headroom. So I realized when it was raining that the motor sounded like it was still working, but the sunroof wouldn't go down. So I pull off in a gas station, start Googling, try and figure out what I can do, and I actually discovered that there's an Allen key underneath the plastic trim.
Yeah.
And you can manually crank the sunroof. So for 5 days, every time we were parked, I would crank it closed. And then we get back in the car and I would crank it open.
Crank it open.
Yeah. So
I love your commitment. You're like someone driving a Targa.
Yeah. But what was really frustrating was that the plastic trim that the Allen key's in, I was thinking, I'll just take it off and leave it. I'll just forget about it. No one's going to see it. Well, of course, the lights are connected to it and the garage door opener is connected to it. So you can't actually disconnect it. So I was using a trim tool to pry it off and to put it back and pry it off and put it back. Of course, one of the clips is broken now. So I need a new piece of plastic trim in the middle because I took it off quite literally about 50 times over 5 days.
My God.
But everything else is good. But I say, I do think I will keep it. Will certainly think really hard about selling it if I'm going to move to something else. Because, wow, what a car! I mean, all those people out there that drive the 996 and get not hated on, but get the jip that they get given because of the 996 and the fried eggs or what have you. Who cares? Just it's so good. They're so good.
Do you think that prejudice against the 996 still exists in the way that it once did?
I think it does for maybe how do I say this politely? The generation above us. Whereas right now, the generation that we're in and the generation below are actually getting into them and loving them, not just because of the driving experience, but also because they're affordable, frankly. And I think the fact that they're more affordable and you get the 911 driving experience sort of overcomes any kind of prejudice about the headlights. Plus, the generation before us, they don't really know about that story because they were in, grade school when that bomb was dropped by Porsche in the late 90s. I don't think they care.
It's a really good point, actually, because I've said many a time I had to get over my prejudice towards them based on my initial reaction when they came out, because I'm in a generation that experienced that.
Yeah.
But you're right, the younger generation, what do they care? For many of them, that might have been the first 911 they ever paid attention to. What do they care about the history of the lights as they stood? I think the prejudice towards them is reducing by the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think people understand that it's a 911 and it doesn't. They don't make worse cars as they progress. They get steadily better. And we've also seen, almost this bell curve where the 911 as a platform has gone into a space where your Carrera S are probably now more kind of grand touring cars versus high performance sports cars.
Right.
And you almost have to get into something from the GT department to get that sort of level of excitement. Mm-hmm. Whereas a 996, 997, that little era there is this little straddling space between the air-cooled era and then the modern era. And I think in that space there's this wonderful intersection of those two eras in way of car build, in way of the tech, but then also in way of driving dynamics and analog feel.
Yeah,
what a great space to be. Every 996 I've driven, I just think they're ace. I just think they're mega.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot. And actually, on the trip, I think there were 3, if not 4 996s, and then there was 1 or 2 991s and a 993 and, so on. The 996 was actually kind of dominating the numbers in the group, which kind of was fun as well,
driving
alongside of the cars that kind of look like your cars and you're enjoying just staring at, Michael Wooten's ass and his martini livery for a couple of hundred miles.
Yeah, it looks cool, huh? That looks so great, that car.
Yeah.
Really
but
cool.
the videos have been coming along slowly since the trip. I think a lot of people know that I had a death in the family. My stepdad passed away, which was just absolutely shocking considering just a few weeks before that road trip, he was doing that road trip with me in my truck.
Yeah, that's right.
It was completely fine. But, I've been in the UK for a month hanging out with my mum and my family. However, and, this is not to diminish that tragedy in any way, I did manage to come across a garage with an absolutely shocking Porsche collection while I was there, to the point where I still don't quite believe it actually happened. My dad randomly called me up and was like, hey, if you fancy coming down to Liverpool, your mum's all right, letting you go for a day. I've got a friend, he's got a couple of Porsches in a garage and he watches your channel and, maybe you want to come down and see them. And I was like, yeah, all right, fair enough. I'll get out of the house for a day. Dude, just amazing.
Really?
Like all of it. So when I first went into this building, and I'm not going to say where it was because in actual fact, there was probably about £5 million worth of cars in this lot. This guy, private collector. So the first off, there were maybe 4 or 5 G bodies and 964s, all sort of rallied up. They were cool. Modded out to be the rally cars. And this guy actually, him and his son, do quite a lot of rally driving across the UK. So there I am thinking, oh, this must be it. These are fantastic, awesome, great. Let's have a conversation about air-cooled cars. Yeah. And we were there, stood for about an hour talking about air-cooled cars. When he was like, do you want to come and see the others? And I was like, sure. Yeah. All right. Why not? So go walking around the corner into the far side of the garage. and my eyes get drawn immediately to the 997.2 Sports Classic. There it was in all its glory. And not only any sort of sports classic, actually the one that was featured on the Total 911 magazine, because Lee Sibley had managed to hook up with this guy a couple of years ago and had borrowed the car to do that shoot. I recognized the license plate and everything. And I'm stood there for like 5-10 minutes just talking about this car. And the guy's like, wow, you kind of know a lot about these cars. And I'm like, well, yeah, a little bit. And enough to know that that's a bit of a unicorn sat right there. It would just be incredible if you had a 911R, for example, and he was like that one. I turned to the right, dude. There was like literally next to each other, and he was taking the covers off as I was looking from one to the other. So no joke, there was a absolutely spotless 997.2 Sport Classic. Next to that was a gold exclusive series 991 Turbo Coupe. Next to that was the 991.1R in the press release white with the red stripes. And the interior heritage package, or something, the equivalent of the heritage package, which, whatever. Next to that was a 991.2 GT3 RS in lava orange. I think it was lava orange. And actually, that was the boring one. I was like, I can't really be bothered taking any photos of that one. I mean, it was just incredible. And of course, around the corner, there were another couple of air cools. There were 2 Ferraris. I mean, what a collection. But I don't think I could ever imagine seeing those 4 unicorn 911s in the same place at the same time, owned by the same person.
Good Lord, huh?
Oh my God.
It's funny. Jerry Seinfeld was talking about the 911R on Spike's Car Radio just this last week, and he said of all his 911s, or maybe it was of all his liquid-cooled cars, I can't remember, it is the one that he believes to be the most special, more special than any other car, in the way that it is set up, the way it drives, the way it goes down a road. It just, and it got me just looking back at old videos of those cars again. I just think there's something so cool and so special about that 911R.
Yeah. It really is incredible. I mean, I'd say the only thing that the only negative, if you can call it a negative, is that it has the 991.1 eyebrow lights at the front and 2D lights at the back.
I get that. I don't mind that. I mean, I'd be. Don't you dare ever buy one and modify it.
No, I know, right?
And it's actually why it's where the GT3 Touring comes in then, because it's dot two, and you get those nice little visual upgrades, which I think, which does elevate it for sure. But I don't care. I think it's a lovely little moment in time.
Oh, definitely.
And I think it kind of heralds this. It's almost the 911R that heralds this real little peak in. There was some great cars coming out of Porsche in that moment, because that leads into then, Cayman GT4, you've around a similar sort of era. Then you go into GT3 Touring. There's just this little cohort of cars that I think are occupy such a special place in what Porsche was doing at the time.
Hey, so speaking of Caymans and GT4s, have you got something to tell me?
I don't. Look, I've spent a long time. I started thinking about selling the 964.
For real?
Order to, not really. No. Look, the thing with the 964, right? It's like any good relationship. It has its ups and its downs, and there are times where the car frustrates me and annoys me. And actually, when I did the rally with my son, I was packing stuff in the frunk, and I was thinking, I wish I still had the 991. I wish I still had that cavernous frunk. and I was putting blocks of wood in that, should I get a flat tire that I could drive the car up onto so that I can get the jacks under it? And I was sort of hating old air-cooled life for a moment. But no, I can't ever get rid of that car. It's part of the family.
It's kind of like that saying, isn't it? For every Brad Pitt, for every Beyonce, or Cindy Crawford, there's somebody out there who's bored of sleeping with them. Yeah, as hard as it is to believe.
Yeah. And look, and I'm not. I'm genuinely not. The car amazes me, and it's got a bit of an issue with it at the moment that we uncovered while I was away. It probably needs the steering rack replaced, which is not an inexpensive repair. That needs to be done. So look, I've lusted after the GT4 for a long time because there's a little voice inside my head that says, I really want to try. I want to have the experience of driving somewhere near the peak of what Porsche are doing at the moment in this era, which for me would be a 981 GT4, so the previous gen, but in a package that has a size that suits the kind of driving I do, that has a manual gearbox, and quite frankly, that is affordable. I mean, if you start talking about GT3s, obviously then everything goes up significantly in terms of dollar value. So yeah, look, I'm hoping I can find a way to see fit to getting into a GT4 even for a short period of time. I did have a good mate of mine, PJ, lent me his car. He has a beautiful sapphire blue metallic GT4.
I think that's the one I saw
for a couple of days.
Yeah, I think I saw that one. You took it.
Yeah, you'll see it on socials. In fact, Alan just posted some shots of it yesterday. The guys were out for a drive. So that car it's great. It's the first GT4 I'd ever driven. He's running on sort of track day tires, so it's certainly a slightly kind of less compliant ride, but I think that's probably just somewhat the GT4 as it is. Interestingly, he's a really tall cat, much like yourself. So he's taken out the comfort seat, or at least the driver's comfort seat, and replaced it with, guess what? Have a guess.
A towel.
You landed on a towel. Wow. No, he's replaced it with a Recaro pole position.
Oh, what a loser. Really? Come on. Wait, what's his name? What's his Instagram handle? I've got to go and troll him immediately.
I'll send you all of his contact details directly after this. We'll post them on social and everyone can give him a hard time.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
Well, because what's the alternative? Put one of the carbon buckets for $10,000 a pop. Now, I must say that personally, I know there's two different widths with the pole position. I'm not sure which one this was. I didn't find it particularly comfortable, which pains me to admit that to you. But I didn't find it particularly comfortable. But that in and of itself said to me that my preference in terms of spec would probably be the touring spec anyway, which is great because it saves some money because any of the cars with the buckets are crazy expensive. So look, we'll see. So
let me ask you this: if you could get hold of a base Cayman, would you get and keep your 964? Would you do that? Because you still get, just like, the Carrera, the Carrera is arguably,
I don't think so. And which is in no way meant to disparage the base Cayman. They're a great car, and I've driven the Cayman S and thought that was absolutely exceptional. I just figure if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to stretch myself, if I'm going to buy another car, the experience I had with the Carrera S was that it was a beautiful car, but because of the compromise that comes with it being a Carrera S, i.e. it has to do double duty for people as daily drivers, etc. I personally just didn't feel it had enough theatre to it, that it had enough drama in it. And so I think that's what I'm looking for in this car. And if it means, this sounds ridiculous, but if it means I can't get one because that's the only thing that'll satisfy me, then I'm sort of okay with that because I've I'm in an incredibly lucky position where I've already got a 911 anyway.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to do it, I figure the GT4 is a car that I've genuinely lusted after for a lot of years, because I've always had this theory that in the modern space, it's probably a car that suits the kind of driving we do here above all else. And I've configured that many on the configurator on the website. So yeah, I think that's the right pick. So it's just whether I can identify the right car, and whether I can make myself pony up to buy it. It sounds ridiculous though, honestly, the idea of having another car, having a second one.
Dream big, son.
I don't spend any money on my daily
big.
driver. I don't spend any money on my daily. I could take out a lease on a new daily driver and watch that thing depreciate by the day, or I can just keep driving that old gas guzzler till it falls to bits and spend that money on something more fun.
So let's move into our last segment of the podcast. I want to know what's going on with Last Rasp over the next couple of months here in the summer, and also let's talk about Video of the Week. You got a recommendation for Video of the Week, but I want to throw another one in as well.
Okay, no, I'm up for debate on that. That's great. Look, there'll be content coming on Last Rasp. I am in a little bit of a hiatus at the moment. I've got to be honest. I'm really focused on my business right now, and it's really taking everything. I don't think I've been as motivated to drive that side of things as I am right now for quite a few years. So honestly, I just want to lean into that. Make the most of that motivation while I can, and then when the weather clears up here, because it's kind of rubbish at the moment anyway. I'll get back into making content on Last Rasp. I probably made a little bit of a rod for my own back in that, because I strive to reach a certain level of quality with every video, they become harder and harder to do.
Dude, I know exactly what you're saying. Every time I look at...
time-consuming, right?
No. Every time I see one of your videos, it makes me hate my content a little bit more and makes it even harder to motivate myself to make videos. Well, so it's a different kind of pain. I'm feeling a different kind of...
Yeah, that's it. But, you look, like I remember Matt Farah saying that they worked out with the Smoking Tire that, all of the videos they were producing, the ones where they... went out and, spent a lot of time on production and post-production, they did okay, but it was when he threw 2 GoPros in a camera and started doing these one takes that people were really interested in them. Now, I'm not suggesting I'm going to do that. I don't have a desire to do that. I want to push myself and learn things each time I make some content. But, it's even things like doing rally videos. I've kind of worked out on my channel, They take so long to cut, and I'm on the side of the road filming in the rain while my buddies are all driving, and actually viewership on those videos isn't that great. So I'm like, I'm done with rally videos. I think the good ones are the the car tests, and if I can get interesting cars, and I've certainly got some interesting cars lined up. So it's just a matter of me sort of finding the time and the opportunity and the motivation to get out there and film. What about you?
Well, similarly, my rally videos don't do as well as my DIY videos and my, kind of wrenching videos. But I do really enjoy editing them, but I don't enjoy filming them. I feel like there's always way too much pressure on trying to get the right shots and extra shots. And every time I'm driving, if I don't have the camera on, I think, oh, that was amazing. Why didn't I have that? Why didn't I capture 100%. That? So that kind of drives me a little bit nuts. But I've just been so busy with family life and personal stuff and kids. And now we're all here this week. All 5 of us have got COVID, which is fun.
Oh, no.
I know, right? But so I've got a few videos come in. I've got a couple more 996 DIY videos that I've filmed. I just haven't had a chance to edit them yet. But I'm planning on going to Checked It Out Chicago again. I'm going to be going to Indianapolis for the Porsche Together Fest again. And I'm going to try and get to Luft, which is the day before my birthday on October 8th.
I'd love to get over for that.
So I think I try and make some videos about those events because I really enjoyed making that one about Luft last year in Indianapolis. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool.
So we'll see, but I'm still at it. And you know what? If I sell the 996 or keep it and get a 997, that's going to just give me energy for a whole new series of wrenching and modding kind of videos. But speaking of videos, let's talk about video of the week.
Yeah. Well, so my recommendation comes from our mate Lee Sibley, on Werks. He did a video recently, and we'll link to it in our Instagram, where he had the opportunity to race a Boxster at the Porsche Club GB Boxster Championship, racing at Brands Hatch, and it's his first actual race. And I just, Lee's let's call him friend of the show, quote unquote. And I loved this video because it really captured the, what must be the excitement, obviously, of having a go at your first race, but all of the things that come along with that, the nerves of, am I going to mess up? Am I going to crash? Of seeing accidents take place kind of around you and in your vicinity while you're racing, and then seeing the high that he was on afterwards, seeing how just you could see it on his face. And actually, it kind of reminded me, my dad, when I was a teenager in my late teens and my early 20s, my dad was racing historic cars, and some of the footage of Lee post the races actually reminded me of my dad, where I remember my dad would get out of the car at the end of a race, and he may have come 7th or 6th or 8th, whatever, but he'd have been dicing with someone else, and they'd both get out of the car, red-faced, hot and sweaty, but laughing their asses off over, moves they tried to put on each other and stuff like that. And so watching Lee's video for me was this lovely little nostalgic trip down memory lane of seeing what happens when the average person steps into a race car versus, the perfectly manicured post-race interviews we see with F1 drivers who, look like they just stepped out of the salon.
So, let's face it, though. Lee is not the average everyman. He's a good-looking lad. He knows his stuff. He's incredibly successful. Just look at everything he's accomplished. And yes, that video is fantastic, but
this feels like such a long setup.
I am going to say that's all boring. He's Mr. Perfect. Okay. He's Mr. Perfect. Yeah. Why would you want to focus on the Cristiano Ronaldo of the Porsche world when you could watch the Peter Beardsley? If you remember Peter Beardsley from Liverpool all those years ago. I'll be honest, wasn't a very attractive fella. Definitely the average man, but he could put the ball in the back of the net. I want to talk about Jay Reid. Let's face it, he's not as attractive, probably not as intelligent. His content is definitely not as good. And, he's not as likable as Lee. But he has got some bollocks on him, that lad. He has got some bollocks. He sold his 996. He bought an absolute piece of shit Boxster, which has fallen apart, and he's been putting it back together over the last few months. And just recently, he attempted what I am too chicken shit to do, which is a full paint correction on that rainbow.
Yes, he did.
Whatever it was. Rainforest green, rainbow green, whatever it is, Andy. I don't know what it is. It's green.
I think it's forest green. I think it's the same as my car.
He did a great job.
Well, do you remember? Because we talked about this, right? And because he was worried about whether he could do it or not, and what he would do to paint work and stuff. So he and I had a few messages on Instagram, a few DMs while he was doing it, and absolute hats off to the man. I think he has done a spectacular job with it. And as you say, he's up against it a little bit in life, It's not so easy for him. No, do you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, that's terrible. I'm not going to buy into your shtick of throwing people under the bus.
Don't sing to my level.
It just didn't feel natural to me at all. But no, I was stoked for him because it's come up an absolute treat. What a champion.
Yeah, and the whole car, he's done a great job with the interior, with the seats. He's, for somebody that told me when I first met him that he doesn't really want to get into wrenching because he's not sure what he's doing or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it's not his forte. He's done a great job, and he's doing suspension work and coils and plugs, and he's killing it. That car is looking tremendous.
Hats off to you, Mr. J. Reid. Well done, sir. And to you, Mr. Lee Sibley.
Good job, guys. Well, Andy, I think that's it for another podcast. The first in our second season.
Yeah, that's it. I'll see you again in a couple of months.
I'm going to finish my peach green lemonade iced tea from Starbucks and maybe go and get another one. And we will talk soon, my friend. But I'm excited about what the second series holds for us. We've got some ideas of folks we're going to have on.
We have got some good guests. I've got some good guests lined up. So they're probably happy we've taken a break because they've been like, I don't want to come on your show anyway, so I'm glad I don't have to do it just yet. But no, we've got some good guests, and do you know what? It's just going to be more of the same where, our whole thing with this podcast is we're just a couple of average dudes who happen to love these cars. We know we're not the most educated. We know we don't have all the answers to everything, but hopefully you guys like just tuning in for the banter, as James would say.
Love it. Well, mate, you take care, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
See you, gang.